Back to lead us in the invocation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم إنا نسألك ألا تدع لنا ذنبا في هذا المقام إلا غفرته ولا مريضا إلا شفيته ولا حاجة من حوائجنا في هذه الحياة إلا أعنتنا على قضائها يا رب العالمين اللهم إنا سمعنا منادي ينادي الإيمان أن آمنوا فآمنا ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا إنك أنت الغفور الرحيم اللهم إنا نسألك من كل خير ما سألك منه نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونستعيذ بك من كل شر ما استعاذك منه حبيبك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ربنا افرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem, Lupang Hinirang, and the Bangsamoro hymn.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, ay basang silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa dagatang tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong bangaw, ay hinagang tula, kawin sa pagkayang minamahal, ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iimig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magtitingin, lumang ang araw ng walhagin pansin ka, buhay langit sa piling mo, ang ibigaya na pagkay magagin, at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. Simula noon hanggang ngayon, isa ang naging layon, magkaisaan magbuklod, karitingan ay marugtong. Tumayo tayo mula sa hamon ng nakaraan, niyakos ang panganib na umaandlang. Pinangako sa puso at paniniwala, ang ginhawa para sa kabataan. Bangsamoro ay tagumpay, bunga ng pawis, sugo at buhay. Kapayapaan, katarungan, ay atin nang nakamtan. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, pagpalain Bangsamoro. Bangsamoro, Bangsamoro, lagi kang mamahalin, walang pipigil sa damdamin, mga pangako'y tutuparin. Habang buhay kami sa'yo'y magbabantay, mananatili sa puso't isip
The Secretariat is directed to call the roll.
The members of the BTA Parliament, the Honorables Abbas Ahmed, Abbas Haron, Abbas Zulkarnain, Abbas Basit Sarip, Abu Mujib, Adyong Jao Rahman Alonto,
Present.
Ahang Abdullah, Alamia Liza, Alauddin Faiz, Ali Ibrahim, Ali Lanang Jr., Ali Edi Mapag, Ali El Cesar, Ambuludo Suarto, Ampatuan Baintan, Anayatin Susana, Asmawil Muslima, Balindong Ali Pangalian, Bara Hamid Aminuddin, Basman Anna Tarhata,
Present.
Burahan Abraham,
Present.
Kandaw Bay Maleha,
Present po.
Dandamon Latif Maysara,
Present.
Diabla Musa, Dipatuan Saprula, Ibrahim Ahod, Ismail Haji Abdul Aziz, Gayak Abdullah, Gera Edward, Hasim Abdullah,
Present.
Hasan Atibil, Iqbal Muager,
Present.
Ismail Rasul,
Present.
Jajuri Raisa,
Present.
Jakilan Muslimin, Dikiri Al-Bakil, Aaron Bainon,
Present po. Present.
Lidasan Mussolini, Loong Don Mustafa, Lorena Jose Ribani, Makako Abdurrauf, Makapaar Abdullah, Karaya Jamel,
Present.
Makasalong Marjani, Mangoda Dato Kadafe,
Present. Present.
Mantawil Malik, Mastura Dato Tukaw, Mastura City Syara, Mawali Lamil Bahar, Mitimbang Dato Midpantaw, Mitmuk Razul, Mujahid Abdul Mahmin, Munoz Hussein,
Ako na.
Oranon Suaid, Pakasa Mubayda,
Present.
Pak Abdul Wahab, Pangandaman Nabila Margarita,
Present. Present.
Ramos Damila, Rimbang Sultan Edrisa Nasser, Sakar Modayaw, Salendab Said,
Present.
Present, Pisata, session po.
Man.
Sound na. Wala.
Wala. Wala. Ako na sa'yo.
Present. Assalamualaikum.
Mr. Speaker, we therefore the presence of quorum.
Business. Majority Leader.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. To the Honorable Speaker of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority Parliament, Attorney Ali Pangalian Balindong. To Honorable Deputy Speaker, Attorney Nabil Tan, members of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority Parliament, staff of the Parliament, Secretariat, guests, visitors. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mr. Speaker, we are now on item number 6, reading in approval of journal of the previous session. I move, Mr. Speaker, to dispense with the reading of the journal of the previous session, and I further move for the approval of the same, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal and further move to approve. Is there any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved.
Mr. Speaker, we are now on item number 7, resolutions. May we request the Secretary General to read the first proposed resolution for today's session, including the title and the author, as well as the co-authors, Mr. Speaker.
The Secretariat is so directed.
Proposed Resolution Number 652. Resolution urging the establishment and implementation of Strategic Performance Management System in the Bangsamoro Transition Authority and in all other agencies in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Principally authored by MP Laisa M. Alamia, co-authored by MP Suharto M. Ambuludto, Rasul Y. Mitmug Jr., Rasul E. Ismail, Amil Bahar S. Mawalil, Don Mustafa A. Loong, and Baintan A. Ampatuan.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this to the Committee on Rules.
There's a motion to refer proposed resolution 652 to the Committee on Rules. Is there any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Next. Secretariat.
Mr. Speaker, we are now proceed on the proposed resolution number 662, where we request the Secretary General to read the first proposed resolution and the second proposed resolution for today's session, Mr. Speaker.
Secretariat is directed to read the next proposed resolution.
Proposed Resolution Number 662. Resolution expressing support to the immediate passage of Senate Bill Number 1316, entitled COMELEC Offices Reorganization Act of 2020, that seeks to strengthen the field offices of the Commission on Elections, principally authored by MP Don Mustafa A. Loong and co-authored by MPs Baintan A. Ampatuan, Amil Bahar S. Mawalil, Laisa M. Alamia, Suharto M. Ambuludto, Rasul Y. Mitmug Jr., Rasul E. Ismail, Jamila D. Ramos, Melanio U. Ulama, Faisalin P. Tago, Omar Yasser C. Sema, Punduma B. Sani, Susana S. Anayatin, Cesar H. Alil, Maysara D. Latif, Bay Maleha B. Kandao, Abdul Mumin A. Mujahid, Musa K. S. Jamla, Eddie M. Ali, Faiz S. Alauddin, Nabila Margarita P. Pangandaman, Muslima A. Asmawil, and Siti Sahara I. Mastura.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion duly to treat this as a simple resolution and be transferred to the business of the day, duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none, same is hereby approved.
Mr. Speaker, may we request again the Secretary to read the next proposed resolution.
The Secretariat is directed to read the next proposed resolution.
Proposed Resolution Number 665. Resolution requesting the Supreme Court of the Philippines to facilitate the immediate organization of the Sharia High Court in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. The principal author is MP Don Mustafa A. Long, and the co-authors are the Honorables MP Baintan A. Ampatuan, Amil Bahar S. Mawalil, Laisa M. Alamia, Suharto M. Ambuludto, Rasul Y. Mitmug Jr., Rasul E. Ismael, Jamila D. Ramos, Melanio U. Ulama, Faisalin P. Tago, Omar Yasser C. Sema, Unduma B. Sani, Susana S. Anayatin, Cesar H. Alil, Maysara D. Latif, Ali B. Sangki, Bay Maleha B. Kandao, Abdul Mumin A. Mujahid, Musa K. S. Jamla, Abdullah B. Hasim, Eddie M. Ali, Faiz S. Alauddin, Nabila Margarita P. Pangandaman, Muslima A. Asmawil, and Siti Sahara I. Mastura.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion to treat this as a simple resolution and move to the business of the day. Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none, same is hereby approved.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, before we proceed, Mr. Speaker, may I move to amend the order of business to include resolution number 669.
669?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it's already been put on the screen of the Mr. Speaker. So before, yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to amend the order of business to include proposed resolution number 669, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to include in the order of business PR 669, duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The order of business is hereby amended.
Yes, we proceed, Mr. Speaker, to number 4 proposed resolution for today's session. May we request the Secretary to read the number 4 proposed resolution, Mr. Speaker.
Proposed Resolution Number 648. Resolution urging the Parliament to call for the extension of the term of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte until 2025 due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the continuing surge of the Delta and Omicron variants. The sole author is MP Sultan Idrisa N. Rimbang.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion to treat proposed resolution 648 a simple resolution and to be transferred to the business for the day of the day. Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none, same is hereby approved.
Mr. Speaker, again, may we request the Secretary General to read the last proposed resolution for today's session, Mr. Speaker.
Ano yan?
To read the next proposed resolution, Mr. Speaker. Proposed resolution number 6.
Secretariat is directed to read the next proposed resolution.
Proposed Resolution Number 669. Resolution expressing the sense of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority of its continued trust and confidence in the interim Chief Minister, the Honorable Murad B. Ibrahim Al-Haj. The authors are MPs Eddie M. Ali, Omar Yasser C. Sema, Laisa M. Alamia, Susana S. Anayatin, Faisalin P. Tago, Maysara D. Latif, Suharto M. Ambuludto, Bay Maleha B. Kandao, Kada Peji Mangudadato, Zio Rahman Alonto Adyong, Jamila D. Ramos, Rasul E. Ismael, Ali B. Sangki, Romeo C. Saliga, Atimil E. Hasan, Muslimin A. Jakilan, Sahi S. Uja, Atsfar H. Usman, Jose I. Lorena, and Nabil A. Tan.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion to treat proposed resolution 669 to a simple resolution and be transferred to the business of the day. Duly seconded. There any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved and order of business hereby and the proposed resolution is hereby transferred.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are now on item number 10, second stage of bills. There is the principal author of this PTA Parliament Bill number 120 would deliver his sponsorship speech on this particular act. May we respectfully recognize MP Don Mustafa Loong to deliver his sponsorship speech on PTA Parliament Bill number 120, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Gentleman from Sulu, MP Don Loong, is recognized to deliver his sponsorship speech of PTA Parliament Bill number 120. Proceed.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to present this Parliament Bill, which is to strengthen the system of management and archival records of the Bangsamoro government and establishing for the purpose the Office of the Bangsamoro Regional Archives and appropriating funds therefore. The Bangsamoro is a nation with rich culture and very long history, enough to consider us among the first nation of this country. Unfortunately, until the advent of social media and the internet, our very limited way of preserving our cultural memory and history is through storytelling. In Tausug, we call it kissa, an Arabic word that literally means story. It is no wonder that except for recent documents and records, what we only have are references to the original. Lately, some of our writers and intellectuals succeeded in reducing our writing, reducing into writing our history and traditions. These writings, nevertheless, are scattered in various libraries and personal collections. The maintenance of our own archival records is one of the most important tasks of the Bangsamoro regional government that we should advance to preserve our collective identity and history. The initiative to strengthen the system of management and archival records of the Bangsamoro government through the establishment of the Office of the Bangsamoro Regional Archives complements the existing and noble purposes of the Bangsamoro Museum, Bangsamoro Library and Archives, and the Bangsamoro Commission for the Preservation of Cultural Heritage. Through these efforts, we could help preserve our history, educate and allow others to understand our diversity, and provide tangible reminders of the sacrifices of our martyrs, the ingenuity of our intellectuals, the determination of our leaders, that of our resiliency and unwavering commitment to the dream of governing our own territory. We are at the height of making a difference in for the Bangsamoro people, and the most appropriate time to preserve and make known our identity and history. Our timing is right. Let us therefore build a home for our narratives to bridge us to our posterity. Let us create the obra. That's my sponsorship speech, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, gentleman from Sulu.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this PTA Parliament Bill number 120 to the Committee on Rules, Mr. Speaker.
The BTA Bill number 120 is committed to the Committee on
The
Rules.
Rules and the Committee on Finance, Budget and Management, Mr. Speaker.
No?
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this BTA Parliament Bill number 120 to the Committee on Rules as well as to the Committee.
BTA Parliament Bill number 120 is referred to the Committee on Rules.
Rules and Committee on Finance, Budget and Management.
Committee on Finance and Budget Management. Is there any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules and the Committee on Finance, Budget, and Management.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, again, MP Don Mustafa Long will deliver his sponsorship speech on Parliament Bill number 150. May we respectfully recognize Engineer MP Don Mustafa Long, Mr. Speaker.
The honorable gentleman from Sulu is recognized, MP Don Loong, to deliver his sponsorship speech.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen, fellow servants of government. I am privileged to present the Parliament Bill, which is an act providing for compensation to public and private health workers who may die of COVID-19 disease while in the line of duty in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, and appropriating funds therefore. Mr. Speaker, honorable ladies and gentlemen of this Parliament, distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum. This representation is presenting for your consideration and seeking your good counsel and wisdom on the proposed Bill 151, an act providing for the compensation to public and private health workers who may die of COVID-19 disease while in the line of duty in the BARM. It is within our knowledge that COVID-19 disease has taken away the lives of many. It chooses no one to be afflicted with, may it be rich or poor, male or female, old or young individuals. Since the declaration of a global pandemic in March 2020 by the World Health Organization, many Filipinos, including the Bangsamoro constituents, have been afflicted by such disease. In the Philippines, healthcare workers are at the forefront of the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic that eventually puts them at high risk for infection. The sacrifice of our doctors, nurses, and other health workers to serve the sick and those afflicted with the fatal novel coronavirus to protect the Bangsamoro region should not be forgotten and deserves the highest commendation. In a report by the Philippine Statistics Authority, COVID-19 is the third leading cause of death in the Philippines from January to November 2021. Death due to COVID-19 virus identified were now the third leading cause, accounting for 67,000 deaths or 9.6%, rising from 14 with 8,300 deaths in the same period of 2020. The PSA explained in its report. On the other hand, BARM reported the least number of registered deaths with 149 cases. With these COVID-19 numbers, a total of 104 healthcare workers who contracted COVID-19 have died, according to the DOH. Based on the latest data, 24,284 workers have tested positive. 104 deaths make up 0.4% of the total infected health workers. As mentioned, the healthcare workers are part of the front line in the struggle against the pandemic. Many healthcare workers have been infected with the disease and have lost their lives during the pandemic. In support of those who had sacrificed their lives in line with their duty in the Bangsamoro region, this bill seeks to support our frontliners in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. This Compensation for Health Workers Act is envisioned to provide the healthcare workers an adequate compensation and benefits that are commensurate with their services. Most of all, it recognizes the paramount importance of public and private health workers for the continuous delivery of health services and efforts to render services during this period of pandemic. Encouragingly, the report rate of infections and deaths among healthcare workers has reduced over time, but we cannot be complacent. In the Bangsamoro region, as of February 2, 2022, the region has a cumulative total of 18,975 confirmed cases, 17,000 recoveries, and 884 active cases. The Bangsamoro government, for its part, recognizes the efforts and paramount importance of both public and private healthcare workers for their continuous delivery of health services, disease prevention, and promotion of health in general. These frontliners who made the ultimate sacrifice to fight against the pandemic by rendering service to the Bangsamoro region are entitled to be provided with financial assistance. No amount will ever be enough to repay them for their significant contribution to fight against COVID-19. But through this initiative, the families they left behind are supported and taken care of. Hence, this proposal for the Compensation for Health Workers Act of 2021. I therefore humbly request my esteemed colleagues to help me pass this bill.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this to the Committee on Health and the Committee on Finance, Budget and Management.
There is a motion to refer BTA Parliament Bill number 151 to the Committee on Health and the Committee on Finance, Budget and Management. Any second?
Second.
Any objection? Chair hears none, same is hereby referred to said committees.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before we proceed, may we respectfully recognize MP Eddie Ali to deliver his privileged speech, Mr. Speaker.
MP, the Honorable Gentleman from Tawi-Tawi, MP Professor Eddie Ali is recognized to sponsor resolution number 669.
Privileged speech, Mr. Speaker.
Privilege speech pala. Kamali. Wow. Okay. Privilege
I
speech
guarantee that you...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. Before I will deliver my privilege speech, I would like to manifest that this privilege
I guarantee
shall serve as my sponsorship speech for Parliament Bill 669.
I guarantee that you and this administration will use all the resources within its disposal to ensure better governance and inclusive political empowerment in this new Bangsamoro region.
So this privilege speech will serve as sponsorship speech for BTA resolution number 669.
Please proceed.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajmain. Our distinguished Chief Minister, Ahud Balawag Ibrahim Al-Hajj, Speaker Ali Pangalian Balindong, Deputy Speakers, Majority Floor Leader Attorney Lanang Ali Jr., Minority Floor Leader Attorney Laisa Alamia, esteemed colleagues, officers and staff of the BTA, guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Mr. Speaker, I rise today on a matter of personal and collective privilege. I still recall, like it was yesterday, when President Rodrigo Roa Duterte administered our oath as members of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority during a ceremony at the Malacanang Palace on February 22, 2019. It was a day like no other, for what seemed like an eternity of jihad has culminated to this, another chapter of an ongoing jihad. I felt so honored then to have been chosen as one of the members of the BTA. I felt anxious of the challenges that it entails, and I felt hopeful of what we could possibly accomplish with the opportunities in the horizon. Of all the things that was playing through my head, my mind eventually zeroed in on the most important subject of the day, that I am taking an oath. Everything else sounded like white noise with that realization. What matters is I realized that I am doing something that can never be taken lightly. I am taking an oath. Not just any oath, but an oath of oaths. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran in Surah An-Nahl, chapter 16, verse 91, fulfill the covenant of Allah when you have taken it, and do not break oaths after their confirmation, while you have made Allah a witness over you. Verily, Allah knows what you do. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the signs of a hypocrite are three. Whenever he speaks, he lies. Whenever he promises, he breaks it. And whenever he is trusted, he betrays it. These words should send shivers through our veins whenever we take an oath, especially something as important as this. This oath has been baked through the past, which has galvanized our struggle. The present, which is a testament to our resolve, and our future, which will cement our legacy. It is said that what we are today is a culmination of a series of events that have molded our present. The Bangsamoro history is rich with events that have created a nation that can face any challenge with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, our past has galvanized our struggle. We are a nation that has gone through immense sacrifices, that has created a Bangsamoro DNA that is known for its courage, resolve, and resilience. A DNA that has enabled us to navigate the complexities and transitioning from armed conflict to the new frontiers of governance and politics. In the same way, Sun Tzu art of war is applicable even in the corporate arena. Our art of struggle will enable us to thrive in any area. Alhamdulillah, here we are now, within the four corners of this hall, the same people in the Malacanang Palace on February 22, 2019, who took the oath, still together, united despite our differences, and still going strong. It's been 3 years since that momentous day. I think I can speak for all of us that it hasn't been an easy road. The hurdles and challenges we had to go through to reach this point has caused some of us to age faster than the natural years for a human being. But it's definitely worth it. In a struggle for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and for the sake of the Bangsamoro people will always be worth it. No matter what the critics say about us, I am sincerely proud of what we have accomplished as a government. Despite the sheer difficulty of booting up an entirely new system of government, on top of that, the catastrophe of a lingering pandemic, external political pulls from every direction, and so on, I could still confidently say we have essentially fulfilled our oath so far. How we are at present as a government is a testament to our resolve in the fulfillment of that oath, inshallah. At this juncture, I would like to emphasize that this could only have been possible with the competent and tenacious leadership of our Chief Minister Balawag Ibrahim Alhaj, our sincerest gratitude for being the epitome of leadership that has allowed us to pull through a hurricane. Our full support, trust, and confidence will always be with you as you continue to be our Chief Minister in the Bangsamoro Transition Authority. We have done so much, but there is still so much to do. With the extension of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, we will still have a long way to go. More laws and policies to enact, and more programs and projects to implement. I believe that the Bangsamoro government has reached unprecedented heights in terms of changing and touching the lives of the Bangsamoro people. However, we are still merely scratching the tip of the iceberg. We need to dig deep into the roots of the problems that has plagued our region for so long in order to finally instill a lasting and sustainable peace and prosperity. The Bangsamoro identity needs to be truly realized, manifested, and inculcated in the hearts and minds of everyone, especially the next generation. For it is only in the future of this Bangsamoro government can we truly cement our legacy. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Mr. Speaker, may we request the Secretary to we put on part of today's session the privileged speech of MP Eddie Ali.
The privileged speech of MP Eddie Ali today shall be reflected in the Journal of Proceedings.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Of the
Now,
PTA
Mr.
Parliament.
Speaker, we proceed to item number 11, committee reports. First committee report to be under consideration is committee report number 69, submitted by Committee on Trade, Investment, and Tourism. In relation to proposed resolution number 331, entitled Resolution Calling for the Implementation of Section 24, Article 13 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law on the enactment of a Bangsamoro Cooperative Code. May we respectfully recognize first the principal author of this proposed resolution, MP Jamila Ramos, to deliver his speech. And again, after that, we will respectfully recognize the chairman of the Committee on Trade, Investment, and Tourism, MP Marjani Makasalang. But before, Mr. Speaker, may we respectfully recognize MP Jamila Ramos.
This has been adopted already?
Not yet, Mr. Speaker. This is his sponsorship
So you
speech.
move for the adoption of the committee report for deliberation.
Not yet, di pa nababasa yung committee report, Mr. Speaker. Basahin po muna yung committee report bago i-adapt, Mr. Speaker.
Ano?
There must be first reading of the committee report before.
First reading.
Yes.
Okay, please proceed. Jam.
Thank you so much. A'udhu billahi minasyaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Deputy Speaker, Attorney Nabil Tan, Majority Floor Leader, Attorney Lanang Ali Jr., Minority Floor Leader, Attorney Liza M. Alamia, CTIT Committee Chair, MP Marjani Makasalong, distinguished fellow members of the Parliament, constituents of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. When we filed PR number 331, a resolution calling for the implementation of Section 24, Article 13 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law on the enactment of a Bangsamoro Cooperative Code on October 23, 2020, it was to celebrate and to raise consciousness on cooperatives and to promote the spirit of cooperativism as stated by Presidential Proclamation 493 Series of 2003, declaring October as Cooperative Month. The resolution's filing was both symbolic and compliance with the proclamation. The Chief Minister Ahod Ibrahim himself declared that the Mara Islamic Liberation Front's combatants during the normalization process will be transformed from armed groups to social movement, where he specifically underscored the important role of cooperatives. From his pronouncement, combatants will be transforming from base commands to cooperatives. It bears repeating that cooperatives are vehicles for equity, social justice, and economic development, and that they have the most potential in improving the economic status of the Bangsamoro people. In our cooperative programs, we find synergy in the power of the people to organize, pool their resources, and have a stronger voice in the economy, in the capacity of their enterprises, the cooperatives, to produce more and improve their bargaining strength through economies of scale, as well as in the potential of the government to provide meaningful interventions and benefit from the power of leverage through the cooperatives and their members. Indeed, in cooperatives, there is strength, there is hope, and there is progress. The more than 12,000 registered cooperatives in the BARM, based on our cooperative database, is a testament that we see them as the best solution or approach to addressing the problems and issues that our region is facing. What we need is to make cooperativism effectively work by legislating a responsive policy, a regulatory and developmental framework that is suitable to our unique culture, identity, circumstances, and way of life, and aligned with the peculiarities of our context and institutions. What we now have for cooperatives are Republic Act number 9520, or the Philippine Cooperative Code of 2008, Republic Act number 7160, or the Local Government Code of 1991, Executive Order numbers 95 and 96, series of 1993. These legislations and executive orders grant preferential rights to cooperatives and various programs, projects, services, and facilities, and provides them with tax exemptions and other privileges, government assistance, and support system. And hopefully, with the enactment of the proposed Bangsamoro Cooperative and Social Enterprise Code, we will not just strengthen our regional institutions, but we will also take a great leap in advancing the cooperatives themselves by including provisions on Sharia compliance, responsiveness to social issues, alignment to our regional priorities and goals, as well as to the ongoing peace process and collaboration mechanisms of the different agencies and tiers of the government. These are the very essence of the provisions of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, mandating us, the Parliament, to enact the Bangsamoro Cooperative Code to strengthen the cooperative enterprises so that we can achieve equity, social justice, and inclusive economic development. This being said, I call on the Bangsamoro Parliament to implement Section 24, Article 13 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, which provides that to achieve equity, social justice, and economic development, the Bangsamoro government shall encourage and support the building up of entrepreneurial capability in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region and shall recognize, promote, protect, and support the development of cooperatives and other medium, small, and micro enterprises. It shall adopt and implement cooperative development policies and programs through the enactment of this code. Implementing this provision is a sure win for all, particularly for our communities, as we will be able to provide them a better and responsive enabling environment, thus empowering their enterprises to become operational, compliant, viable, sustainable, and globally competitive, inshallah. Let us act on this very important legislation now so our institutions can start working optimally and our communities can reap the benefits of our stronger and more responsive regulatory and developmental programs and services. Alam po ninyo ang mga kagalang-galang na kasama sa Bangsamoro Parliament, ang ating leadership sa BARM ay malawak at malalim ang ginagawang pag-iisip upang mabigyan ng oportunidad ng lahat. Ika nga nila, no one is left behind. Noong sinusulong ang usaping kapayapaan at ang paglagda sa Comprehensive Agreement ng Bangsamoro hanggang sa pagsasabatas ng Bangsamoro Organic Law, hanggang sa pagtatatag ng ating Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao at ng ating Bangsamoro Government, ang mga Bangsamoro ay lubhang umaasa na dumating na ang panahon para makamit ang tunay na kapayapaan at magbibigay ito ng daan upang mas mapabuti pa ang kanilang pamumuhay. They have been hoping that the establishment of the Bangsamoro Government is the solution to our region's problems and that they will be provided with jobs and livelihood opportunities. At dahil hindi naman natin ma-accommodate na papasukin lahat or bigyan lahat ng trabaho sa gobyerno, ang pinakamagandang solusyon na nakikita po ng ating BARM leadership ay palakasin ang kooperativismo sa ating reyon at bigyan ng suporta ang ating mga mamamayan sa pamamagitan ng kanilang mga kooperatiba. Ito ang pahayag ng ating mahal na Chief Minister at nais po niyang mag-organisa mga base commands at mga communities bilang mga kooperatiba upang mabigyan sila ng karampatang suporta. Ngunit hindi natin po may asa ang kapakanan ng mga umaasang Bangsamoro sa dating sistema ng kooperatiba sa ating rehiyon. Kinakailangan na magkaroon ng pagbabago sa sistema at ito ay makakamit natin unang-una sa pamamagitan ng pagsasabatas ng Bangsamoro Cooperative Code na binigay na mandato sa atin ng BOL. Makakasigurado tayo na itong Bangsamoro Cooperative Code ay mas magiging responsive at suitable o nararapat sa mga pangangailangan at sa natatanging kultura at pagkakakilanlan ng ating mga mamamayan at ng kanilang mga kooperatiba. Kaya muli, nananawagan po ko sa ating Bangsamoro Parliament na tulungan natin ang BARM leadership at maipasa ang proposed resolution number 331. Sa pamamagitan nito, masisiguro natin na mapagpalakas natin ang enabling environment para mas maging epektibo at sustainable ang ating mga kooperatiba. Maraming salamat po. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Majority Leader.
Yes, may we respectfully recognize the chairman of the Committee on Trade, Investment and Tourism, MP Marjani Makasalang, Mr. Speaker, to defend the committee report, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable MP Marjani Makasalong is recognized to defend the committee report.
A'udhu billahi minasyaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Our Chief Minister Ahud Balawag Ibrahim, the Speaker of the Parliament, Attorney Ali Pangalian Balindong, Deputy Speaker Attorney Nabil Tan, colleague in this august body. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a good afternoon to everyone. The proposed resolution number 3316 for the implementation of the Section 24, Article 8 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law on the enactment of Bangsamoro Cooperative Code. Under the Bangsamoro Cooperative Code, there will be formal mechanisms for the adoption and implementation of policies and programs that will aid in the development of cooperatives and other social enterprises here in the Bangsamoro. There is a strong linkage between the strengthening of cooperatives and the development of socio-economic conditions and the general welfare of localities. As we aid in the boosting and mobilization of cooperatives, they are able to achieve consistent and sustainable development both at a membership level and within the broader communities. And by answering to the material and economic needs of our constituents, we can also bring about movements in establishing institutions that support and promote peace and social justice, provision of decent, establishing decent work and pay, gender equality, and other social issues that may plague our communities. The passage of this resolution will have direct impact in the success of the normalization track by providing livelihood opportunities for the decommissioned combatants that will aid in their return to their civilian lives. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Trade, Investment and Tourism has the honor to report back to the Bangsamoro Transition Authority the proposed resolution number 331 entitled a resolution calling for the implementation of Section 24, Article 8 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law on the enactment of Bangsamoro Cooperative Code, respectfully recommending for its approval without amendments. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt committee report number 69 for deliberation, Mr. Speaker.
Committee report, there's a motion to adopt committee report 69 for deliberation.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby adopted for deliberation.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I have an omnibus motion to dispense with the period of interpellation and debate, and period of amendment, and the period of interpellation and debate, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to omnibus motion to dispense with the period of interpellation and debate and the period of amendments.
Interpellation and debate, no, Mr. Speaker.
The interpellation and debate.
Yes,
Lady second.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
Speaker.
What is the pleasure of the gentleman from Sulu, Honorable MP Joe Lorena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before we proceed to adopt that resolution, I have one particular query.
Yes, we are.
Yes,
we will dispense.
Yes.
Before we dispense with the period of interpellation and debate, there is a clarificatory question that the honorable gentleman would like to propound. Is that
Yes,
okay?
Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I love the idea of the cooperative code, but unfortunately, that is a resolution subject of a committee report. I hope when that resolution was handled, there should have been a recommendation already to drop the code, because as the resolution manifests, clearly we need a cooperative code. And that said, I really don't know if we can utilize appropriately committee work for simple resolutions. So my point only is, if the idea of that resolution is to direct the committee to tackle on that, there should also be a recommendation that the committee can help draft the cooperative code for the purpose of hastening the passage of a cooperative code. That is just both a query and a request, so that next resolution, we will not be just coming out with resolution, because seemingly there are now basis of comment that we are very fan of resolution, but after the resolution, nothing substantive comes out of it. So I hope that we will dispel that statement. So dapat talaga, kung may recommendation, meron. So may I inquire if the committee has already recommended or even initiated the crafting of a cooperative code?
Yes, in fact, Mr. Speaker, we already have our, inshallah, this March, the consultation of that cooperative code.
Thank you, and therefore I would manifest that I would like to be associated with that resolution before and I would second the approval of the omnibus motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Duly noted.
In fact, this morning's committee meeting that was tackled, I think, on the holding of public hearings of the cooperative code. So, Majority Leader,
MP Eddie Ali, Mr. Speaker.
the Honorable MP Professor Eddie Ali is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I only have one clarificatory question. As a co-author of this proposed resolution number 331, I believe that it is highly important to pass this resolution so that the BTA Parliament will commit to act on legislating the Bangsamoro Cooperative Code during the transition. However, Mr. Speaker, we now have the Cooperative and Social Enterprise Authority by virtue of Administrative Code, of the Bangsamoro Administrative Code. We have also the BTA Bill number 124, or the proposed Bangsamoro Cooperative and Social Enterprise Code, which I am also a co-author. My question is, why is this proposed resolution number 331 only mentioned Bangsamoro Cooperative Code, Bangsamoro Cooperative Code? Why was social enterprise not included?
The chairman of the committee is recognized to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The very reason is that it was overtaken by the time. Actually, this was filed on October 23, 2020, days before the approval of the admin code. But the concern or the query of good MP, this representation or the committee chair is open for any amendments.
I thought the social enterprise is different from the cooperative code. That's why you were scheduling a public hearing.
Yes, for the two bills that were referred to our committee.
So that was his question. Why separate from the social enterprise?
You are referring to the two bills, Mr. Speaker. Because I think after the consultation, we can, in fact, we have the TW, we can also create the TWG to maybe put it together. But for that consultation, the two proponent of the bills prefer it to have the consultation separately.
Separately and in different places.
Yes.
Because it might be interchanged or misinterpreted. So that is the answer to the question of the honorable gentleman from Tawi-Tawi.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank
And
you.
if he wants to have an amendments, we are open for that, Mr. Speaker.
At the proper time. Thank you,
At the
Mr.
proper time.
Speaker. Majority Leader.
I move to close the period of interpellation.
Motion to
MP.
Just one. Yes.
the honorable
Clarificatory lang po.
gentleman from Lanao del Sur, the honorable Deputy Speaker Zia Alonto Adjong is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Clarificatory question, Mr. Speaker. Just one.
Proceed.
Yung resolution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe this resolution will not supply or will not act as the enabling law to activate that particular provision mentioned in the BOL. Am I correct, Mr. Speaker? That this resolution
Mr. Speaker, yes.
shall not act.
This is just a call for us to implement the Section 24, Article 8 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law.
So meaning the committee still has to formulate the code, the cooperative code. Is it correct, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, yes, that is right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that clarificatory
Thank you, Deputy
Thank
Speaker
you, Mr. Speaker.
Zia Adjong.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of interpellation.
There is a motion to close the period of interpellation and debate. Is there any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved.
Wala na?
We now go to the period of amendments.
Yes. I move to open the period of amendments, Mr. Speaker.
There is a motion to open the period of amendments. There any amendments? Proposed amendments? I don't hear any.
MP Diali, Mr. Speaker.
MP Edial is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I move to include social enterprise in PR 331 in the title instead of simply the Bangsamoro Code, but the social enterprise, the Bangsamoro Cooperative and Enterprise Social Enterprise Code.
1 minute suspension. MP Eddie Ali has proposal.
Yeah. Isa lang po. Just to be consistent, Mr. Speaker, with the Bangsamoro Administrative Code, I move for an amendment of Section 24 and 27 to include the word and social enterprise code. Doon po sa resolution na yan. Yun lang po ang, just to be consistent, Mr. Speaker, with the administrative code.
Admin code.
Yes.
There any objection? Is there any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved.
Subject to style lang. Okay na.
Subject to style. Pati yung sa body ng resolution.
Yes.
Tignan nyo, may adjustment yan. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of amendment.
There is a motion to close the period of amendments. Duly seconded. Another hands being raised. What is the pleasure of the honorable gentleman from Blue?
We are because Section 24 speaks trade in industry, cooperatives and social enterprise. Section 27 speaks of cooperatives and enterprise. So if we put Section 24 and 27, we are including social. Remove section. Because choice of the section. Even speak of cooperatives.
Session suspended for 1 minute. Mag-usap nga kayo.
Of the bill so that we will not be called ignoramus when we present the resolution.
So what is now the status?
So in order to cover the scope of the preparation of the code and the call for cooperatives and social enterprise, we will now include both Section 24 and 27.
So you withdraw your earlier comment?
Yes, Your Honor.
And amendments? Naku. Okay. So it stand as is earlier, as proposed earlier.
Yes, Mr.
Majority
Speaker.
Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, there's a standing motion to close the period of amendment, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to close the period of amendments. Duly seconded. Meron na ba second? Second. Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved. The period of amendments is closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the approval and adoption of Committee Report Number 69 and Proposed Resolution Number 331.
There is now a motion to approve proposed resolution 331, Committee Report 69. There any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Proposed resolution 331 is approved.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed to Committee Report 95, submitted by the Committee Agriculture, Fisheries, and Agrarian Reform. In this aspect, Mr. Speaker, may we respectfully recognize the Chairman of the Committee, MP Muhammad Yaqub, Mr. Speaker.
Is this the same as the committee report that we tackled yesterday? Is this a continuation or it's that different?
This is a proposed
Training
resolution.
Institute pala yan.
Yes,
Training
proposed
center.
resolution lang ito, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, proceed. We consider committee report number 95 on proposed resolution 528. The Honorable Don Long is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Even without the exact figures on the total area planted with coconut trees in the BARM, a mere visual of our topography and satellite image of the region readily show a large area planted with coconut trees. Nationally, it is the third most dominant crop next to rice and corn. Yet the majority of the coconut farmers still belong to the poorest of the poor. Several factors have drastically affected the yield of the coconut farmers. In the Philippines, the average yield remained 40 to 45 nuts per tree annually, while countries like Brazil and India have an average record of 200 to 300 nuts. Despite the ailing situation of our coconut industry, there are still high hopes that with little investment and scientific research and development, we can be able to revive the coconut industry. Secretary Dar even declared that it could be the sleeping giant. In February of 2021, RA 11524 became a law intended to increase the incomes for coconut farmers, alleviate poverty, and achieve social equality. Under this law, a total of 75 billion for 5 years will be transferred to the Coconut Farmers and Industry Trust Fund that will be accessible to the registered coconut farmers and coconut farmers organizations. Other coconut levy funds will be included in this trust fund. However, the utilization thereof must be according to the Coconut Farmers and Industry Development Plan, which is limited to the coconut farmers included in the Coconut Farmers Registry. The period of registration has already expired in June 2021. This resolution is intended to determine from the MAFAR if the coconut farmers in the Bangsamoro region were able to register, how many of them were registered, or why there are no or only a few registrars registered in the region. The signing of this law by President Duterte is a legacy. It will pave the way for the efficient use of the multi-billion coconut levy to uplift the livelihood of millions of farmers and sustain development. With 75 billion for 5 years, it's a game changer. It ushers a new policy that will bring big reforms to the coconut industry, of which so many of us are the children of coconut farmers. The tens of thousands of coconut farmers in the BARM are unfortunately not included. If this parliament will not act and will not request for the registration or the appeal for the extension of registration, we are not part of the 75 billion to help our farmers from the coconut levy. The purpose of that is to increase productivity, alleviate poverty, and modernize the coconut industry. But again, unfortunately, the Bangsamoro farmers will not be able to avail of this trust fund because we have not registered our farmers. Senator Pangilinan and Risa Hontiveros has expressed concerns about the deadline and the lack of registration. And that's why I will be requesting for an omnibus motion later to just approve this resolution by the body so that the MAFAR can immediately act on this and this resolution also be forwarded to the concerned parties. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, may we respectfully recognize the chairman of the committee, MP Muhammad Jacob, Mr. Speaker.
MP Muhammad Jacob is recognized.
Thank you very much. Yes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. My courtesy to Deputy Speaker, Attorney Nabil Tan, the Majority Leader, the members of the Bangsamoro Parliament. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. As Chair of the Committee on Agriculture, Fisheries and Agrarian Reform, I'm here to report the committee report number 95 submitted by the Committee on Agriculture, Fisheries and Agrarian Reform on 21 February 2022. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Agriculture, Fisheries and Agrarian Reform, to which was referred proposed resolution number 5 to 8 entitled a resolution directing the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Agrarian Reform, MAFAR, to apprise the Parliament on the status of the coconut industry in the region and our compliance with the provisions of Republic Act number 11524, otherwise known as the Coconut Farmers and Industry Trust Fund Act, authored by Engineer Dong Mustafa Loong, MP Engineer Baintan Adil Ampatuan, MP Amir Bahar S. Mawalil, MP Attorney Laisa M. Alamia, MP Attorney Rasul Y. Midmog, Junior, MP Attorney Suharto M. Ambuludu, and MP Rasul Ismail, has been deliberated and strictly recommending for its approval without amendments. So BTA report resolution number 530 is attached to this committee report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt Committee Report 1995 for deliberation, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to adopt Committee Report 95 for deliberation. Is there any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby adopted for deliberation.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of interpellation and debate.
There's a motion to open the period of interpellation and debate. Here I see Majority Leader.
Yes, may we respectfully recognize first Jam Ramos, to be followed by Paisalin Tago, MP Attorney Paisalin Tago, and MP Eddie Ali.
In that order, yes, we will recognize them. MP Jam, please proceed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. First, let me extend my heartfelt commendation to the Minister, MP Muhammad Yaqub, and the members of the Committee on Agriculture, Fisheries, and Agrarian Reform for swiftly acting on this significant measure and recommending it for deliberation in the plenary. I am a co-author, Mr. Speaker, of this bill, and I really believe that this bill shall be passed because it will solve or address the issue on lack of sufficient training service providers in the region and improve capability of our agriculture and fisheries producers. And in order to improve it, Mr. Speaker, I just have some clarificatory questions if the group opponent is amenable to it.
Mr. Speaker, we accept the clarificatory
Please proceed.
questions.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I only have two questions. Some of the questions have been raised already yesterday. Mr. Speaker, I have the same observation that in Section 6, you've mentioned the partnership with Bangsamoro Cooperatives. Mr. Speaker, I withdraw. I reserve my manifestation later because I'm referring to the committee report the pending committee report on Agricultural Training Institute. My apologies, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Chair, I move that for an omnibus motion to terminate the period of interpellation and debate and consequently the period of amendment, Mr. Chair, and for the approval of the second.
We have already recognized earlier MP Paisalin Tago and MP Eddie Ali in that order. So we will defer the motion to close the period. MP Paisalin Tago is recognized to be followed by MP Eddie Ali.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. That is what I am going to raise, Mr. Speaker, because we are not talking here of the substance of the work of the MAFAR.
we are talking here of a resolution that the proponent is requesting the MAPA to apprise this parliament of the status of the coconut industry in the region. Not we will not talk here of the substance of what happened to the coconut. We will just ask the MAPA to apprise this parliament. So, Mr. Speaker, in view of that, Mr. Speaker, and the simpleness of this resolution, I move, Mr. Speaker, that we dispense with the interpellation and debate and the amendment subject to style and approve this, because what we are asking is to apprise only from the MAPA on the status of the, if we approve this, then afterwards we can ask the MAPA of the status of the coconut industry in the region. That's
another motion. Same motion as earlier expressed.
In support of the motion as expressed by the Deputy Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
Can we hear? Thank you. Can we hear MP Eddie Ali? Do you agree with that, or do we proceed with what you plan?
Mr. Speaker, just I have to clarify on the data. Just
proceed, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the report 95, at the end of the report, it mentioned the BTA proposed resolution number 530. What we are talking here is proposed resolution 528. So I move just for the amendment of that to be made 528. At the same time, if the proponent of the resolution will allow me to be part of the author, then I would appreciate it very much.
Accept the amendment. Are we in the period of amendments, interpellation, what?
Just a correction, Mr. Speaker.
We are in the period of interpellation and debate, MP Eddie Ali.
Yes,
So
Mr. Speaker.
we close the period of interpellation and debate and of majority leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The intention of MP Eddie Ali is to correct some
correct.
detail. Yes, Mr. Speaker. Instead of 530, it should be 528.
So there is no amendment.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of interpellation and debate.
There is a motion to close the period of interpellation and debate. Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move to dispense with the period of amendment, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to dispense with the period of amendments. Is there any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the approval and adoption of
there's a motion to
528.
approve proposed resolution 528 under committee report number 95. Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed again to the last committee reports. Committee report number 96. Submitted by the Committee of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Agrarian Reform on proposed resolution number 530, entitled the resolution directing the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Agrarian Reform to modify the technical specifications in its procurement of motorized bangka for fiberglass boats to wooden hauled boats and expedite procurement and full implementation of the motorized boats distribution program, Mr. Speaker. So we respectfully recognize first MP Don Long, to be followed by MP
Don Long, gentleman from Sulu is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, the procurement of the fiberglass fishing boats by the MAFAR has hit a snag due to the lack of supplier of fiberglass fishing boats or the lack of suppliers here in Mindanao. In fact, my TDIF, which is since 2020, of fiberglass boats, more than 24 of them for the cooperatives have not yet been delivered, mainly because of that. There's really a lack of suppliers for fiberglass boats. The specific requirement for fiberglass fishing boats is affecting our local boat makers and threatening to erase the already dying boat making tradition in the region. As we are fully aware, our ancestors were either boat dwellers or were largely dependent on the wooden boat, either to navigate the swamps of Liguasan Mars and the tributaries of Rio Grande, conquer the Lake Lanao, or to attack foreigners' outposts to forestall the advances of the occupying nation. It is believed that the Tausug got its name because of our ancestors' mastery of the changing sea currents, and boat-making tradition continues up to today in Tawi-Tawi, Basilan, Sulu, and Maguindanao and Lanao. Our boat makers are already struggling with the ordinary challenges of life. The news that the MAFAR will be distributing fishing boats made out of fiberglass has frustrated many. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I have taken a boat ride from Parang all the way to Cotabato, all the way to Datu Udin Sinsuat, to Datu Blas Sinsuat. And I was looking at the coastal areas, and all I see were wooden boats. But please take note, we are not talking about the wooden boats that will affect the prohibition on the cutting of trees, because the wooden boats right now, they're using marine plywood, which is sustainable and available in many hardwares. The basis for the fiberglass boats was based on our committee hearing, reference on the provision of BFAR that those passenger carrying ships should no longer be wooden, it will be phased out. But that is referring to this big lancha or passenger boat carrying ships. But there is no policy, there is no law as admitted during our committee hearing that really prohibits our small fishermen from using these boats. And I had validated in Basilan, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi that most of our fishermen are still using that wooden boats made from marine plywood, and that most of the programs that we have given on fiberglass has become water containers. So even our fishermen who since birth have been using wooden boats are unsure whether to accept a fiberglass boat or not. In Sulu, most of our fishermen, our team had expressed, have dialogue, and even here in Maguindanao, have hesitated on the use, because once nag-crack yan, hindi mo makikita yung impact. Pag marine plywood, madaling ayusin ng kahit sino. Pero pag fiberglass boat na damage, mahirap ayusin. At pag nasira yan in the middle of the sea, mahuhulog na lang kaagad. Kaya takot yung mga fishermen natin. Hence, to address all these issues, this representation proposes that instead of requiring our fishermen to use a boat they do not like or which they would find difficult to maintain and to support our already dying industry of boat making, we instead allow the use of this marine plywood in the construction of our fishing boat. In fact, my dear colleagues in the Parliament, if you look at our budget in 2021 and 2022, there are no more boats for fishermen. And who are affected? It is our people in the Basilan, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi areas and the coastal villages of Maguindanao that are affected with this policy that is actually misplaced. And so this committee report, simply from the committee, it had already recommended the approval without amendments of this resolution because the MAFAR itself needs legislative support or policy support to allow them so that in their programming, then they have flexibility. And indeed, these are one of the advantages of the autonomy that our forefathers have given their sweat, blood, and tears for. So with that, Mr. Chair, I move that this August body approve the committee report.
There's a motion to approve this committee report.
Mr. Speaker, may we respectfully first recognize the chairman of the committee, Mr. Speaker.
MP Muhammad Yaqub is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am here again to read the committee report number 95 Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Agriculture, Fisheries and Agrarian Reform, to which was referred, reports resolution number 528.
530.
530. Nakabaliktad na. 530 entitled a resolution directing the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Agrarian Reform to modify the technical specifications in its procurement of the motorized banca from fiberglass boats to wooden hoard boats and expedite the procurement and full implementation of their motorized boat distribution program. Authors MP.
Please proceed. We heard the sponsor, the author already.
Yes.
You don't have
has
to
been deliberated
mention their
and
names again.
respectfully recommending for its approval without amendment. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt
Mr.
Committee
Speaker.
Report number 96
Mr. Speaker.
for deliberation, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
That is the motion of the majority leader.
Motion to adopt Committee Report number 96 for deliberation.
Motion to adopt Committee Report number 96.
For deliberation.
For deliberation.
Mr. Speaker, before I will move for second that motion, I
Please
just have,
proceed.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I just want to ask
You won't discuss. You will not discuss first because we have not adopted this for deliberation.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. I just want to inquire from the chairman of the committee, who is also the Minister of MAPAR, if there is a law which requires that only fiberglass are allowed to fly for fishermen, allowed for fishermen by MAPAR. Is there a law?
Maybe we call for a suspension because we will have to approve first for deliberation before that question can be answered.
Mr. Speaker, because if after that answer, I will second the approval because there is a motion, but it is not yet seconded. So I am just asking.
That motion is not yet the property of the chair because it's not yet seconded. So
yes, so if that is the case, so that we will go again to because the motion was to dispense the interpellation and amendment.
No, the motion was to adopt for deliberation, right?
Okay, though I second the motion to adopt, then I proceed.
There's a motion to adopt Committee Report number 96 for deliberation. Is there any second? Duly seconded. There any objection? Chair hears none. The committee report is hereby adopted. 96 hereby adopted for deliberation. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, may we first respectfully recognize MP Jose Lorena to be followed by MP Eddie Ali.
MP Joe Lorena is recognized to be followed by
Eddie Ali.
MP Ali and meron pa ba? Dalawa lang. Bilisan lang nyo. Matagal na tayo.
Mr. Speaker, I would just, if the committee chair of the committee on CFR would accede to some Q inquiry on this particular committee report.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
Unang-una, this resolution is to modify technical specification. Mag-question, ang una kong tanong, mayroon bang batas na nagsasaad ng kailangan lang magawa, mabili for fishermen ay fiberglass?
Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
Based on the resolution passed by the BIFAR, wala po silang law na basihan directly telling that the fisher folks cannot utilize wooden bangka. But based on the law passed by the Department of Natural Resources and DNR, ay nag-response ang BIFAR to follow that law to protect, to support protect the environment in the country. Kasi parang nauubos na yung mga kahoy na in which very important to our environment. So therefore,
Is that a law?
It is not a law. It is a resolution passed by the BIFAR to follow that.
BIFAR Manila?
Manila, yes. So yun na yun. Basihan namin na sinusunod namin yung BIFAR resolution. So therefore, as mentioned by the
Next question.
the author of the resolution, the MAFAR just need a legislation or legal basis for the region to shift into from fiberglass to the wooden bangka.
And
so,
what we are is about to adopt is a resolution,
yes,
not
yes,
a
Mr.
law,
Speaker.
as you said, as
Yes.
legal basis.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Bakit kailangan po ng ano? Bakit
tama.
kailangan ng batas? Resolution, hindi pa pwede yun, if I may ask. Mr. Mapar, Minister.
Yes, just a resolution passed by the
so-
Parliament. We can shift into.
So we can just express our sentiment.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr.
Mr. Speaker.
MP Joe Lorena still have the floor.
Thank you. Pangalawa, ang tanong ko.
Mr. Speaker, can I just interject before that topic is resolved and we might have the wrong notion?
Yes,
I will accede, but if his interjection is related to my first question.
Yes, it is related, Mr.
Okay,
Speaker.
please.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Speaker.
proceed.
Mr. Speaker, based on our committee hearing, the reference on why MAFAR prefers the use of fiberglass is the February 2011 Executive Order of President Aquino declaring moratorium on the cutting and harvesting of timber in natural residual forests. However, allowed logging in plantation forests or forests planted by man. Therefore, many of our boats were those that were already planted by men. Remember, we have also forest plantation that is allowed. That's why in the hardware, we have wood that is available for construction of houses and buildings.
Mr. Speaker, thank you because the premise has already been laid
Thank
down.
you for the
May I continue?
explanation.
Thank
MP
you.
Joe Lorena
There's one more, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I got the point already, but I would just like to point out.
Thank you.
MP Dolong, we will allow
Yes,
Joe
yes,
Lorena
yes.
to proceed so that we don't prolong this. Because I still have comments also if we will indulge.
Yes.
MP Joe has the floor.
Mr. Chair, ganun pa man, mayroon sinabing resolution lang ng Central Office. Kailangan ba natin sinusundan lahat ng resolution ng departments? Ministry naman tayo at autonomous na tayo? Yun ang tanong ko. At ang nirecognize naman ng cultural heritage natin. Hindi ba kung hindi nababagay, pwede naman natin hindi sundin?
The minister, the committee chair shall answer.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Tama po si Honorable MP Attorney Lorena na dapat hindi natin lahat sinusunod whatever introduced by the national since ang applicable na ginagawa sa region ay using wood. But however, nung pag-assume namin as minister, since nawala po tayong batas o any resolution came from this parliament, temporarily na sinusunod namin whatever applicable implemented by the national government. So kaya nga we are happy as Minister of the Ministry of Agriculture kung maipasa itong resolution, at least the MAFA has a basis na meron po tayong legal basis to shift into whatever applicable in the region based on the resolution passed by this parliament.
So unang-una, itong resolution hindi pa naman magiging batas. Resolution lang. This is expressing a sense. Sa palagay mo, kailangan mo pa ng batas para mabago yung specification?
Mr. Speaker, baka hindi na.
Sige. Doon ako nagpapasalamat kaya kung magantay pa tayo ng batas, pagkapatay ng kabayo, bago darating ang grass. So, ibig sabihin, pwede na baguhin ng mapar ang specification kahit bukas because of the expression of this sense. Kasi naabala na yung implementation namin ng TDIF naman sa island provinces. Mr. Speaker, maraming salamat and thank you for candidly answering our question. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, MP Joe. Majority Leader, is there any motion to approve?
MP Don Long muna, Mr. Speaker.
MP,
Mr. Speaker,
are
last
you
point.
objecting to the approval?
No, Mr. Speaker. Just for the record, Mr. Speaker, what the policy that the chairman of the committee was mentioning is Marina Circular 2016-02, dated 2016, which provides, because I tasked 4 lawyers of our team to research all the policies, and there is no policy, only this 2016 Marina Circular that states the revised rules for the phase out of wooden hulled ships that is intended for carrying passengers in domestic shipping and not for fishing purposes. It is unfortunate that in the committee, we were able to determine that there is misunderstanding between the technical staff of the MAFAR that misinterpreted this provision as a prohibition for our boats. In fact, if you will look at the past 15 years, every year, hundreds of wooden boats are being donated by LGUs in the Bangsamoro region to our counterparts. But I'd like to appreciate Attorney Joe Lorena, one of our highly esteemed legal walking dictionaries, for clarifying the point. And would support the approval, Mr. Chair.
Wind down. You're finished, MP
Yes,
Don.
Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of interpellation.
There's a motion to close the period of interpellation and debate. Is there duly seconded? Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move to omnibus motion to dispense the period of amendment.
There's a motion to dispense with the period of amendments. Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption and approval of this particular resolution, Mr. Speaker. Proposed resolution number 530.
530. There is a motion to approve proposed resolution 530 under committee report number 96. Duly seconded? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, just a reminder to the Secretary General to correct the written, the last part of the committee report. Instead of 528, it is 530, Mr. Speaker. That's a minor correction, Mr. Speaker.
The Secretary is directed to review the wordings.
Yes, Mr.
So ordered.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed now to the unfinished business.
The Secretariat will
Yes,
now
unfinished
please.
business, proposed resolution number 668, entitled the resolution reiterating the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, approve resolution number 189, and further directing all ministries and offices to avoid the conduct of training in other capacity building activities in luxurious and first-class hotels or resorts, except those activities which are externally funded. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, may we respectfully recognize MP Engineer Baintan ng Patuan, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Baintan ng Patuan is recognized. We now consider proposed resolution 668. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Mr. Speaker, members of this Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, magandang hapon po. Members of this August Parliament, we are responsible for each other's acts and the acts of the other BARM officials and employees. No less than our 1987 Philippine Constitution, under Article 9, Section 1, states that public office is a public trust. Public officers and employees must at all times be accountable to the people, serve them with utmost responsibility, integrity, loyalty, and efficiency, act with patriotism and justice, and lead modest lives. Under Section 2 of Article 13 of the Organic Law, it is highlighted that the Bangsamoro government shall promote the effective use of economic resources and endeavor to attain economic development that facilitates growth and full employment, human development, and social justice. Under Republic Act 967-13, or the Code of Conduct of Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, it is provided under Section 2 that it is the policy of the state to promote the high standards of ethics in public service. Public officials and employees shall at all times be accountable to the people and shall discharge their duties and utmost responsibility, integrity, competence, loyalty, and act of patriotism and justice, lead modest lives, and uphold public interests over personal interests. We all know that to be effective in carrying out our mandates and function as government officials and employees, a series of capacity building activities and or trainings are conducted in order to equip us with the proper know-how and to enhance our competencies to be more effective in our public service delivery. In fact, Rule 3, Section 2 of the Implementing Rules of Republic Act 6713 it is provided that professional, scientific, technical trainings and education programs shall enhance to the highest degree professionalism, excellence, intelligence, and skills in the performance and discharge of the duties and responsibilities of officials and employees. However, in the conduct of these capacity building activities and trainings, we should be reminded that Section 4 RA 6713 provides for the norms of conduct of public officials and employees. Under paragraph A, it is provided that every public official and employees shall observe the following standards, as standards of personal conduct in the discharge and execution of official duties. Letter A, commitment to public interest. Public officials and employees shall always uphold the public interest over and above personal interests. All government resources and powers of their respective offices must be employed and used efficiently, effectively, honestly, and economically, particularly to avoid wastage in public funds and revenues. Professionalism, letter B. Public officials and employees shall perform and discharge their duties with the highest degree of excellence, professionalism, intelligence, and skill. They shall enter in public service with utmost devotion and dedication to duty. They shall endeavor to discourage strong perceptions of their roles as dispensers or peddlers of undue patronage. Moreover, in relation to the list of venue of official use, the implementing rules and regulation of Republic Act 9184 or the Government Procurement Act is instructive. The location of the venue to be leased, which may refer to the convention halls and hotels, should have been meticulously selected by the procuring entity after taking into consideration, among others, the need for prudence and economy in the government service and the sustainability of the area in relation to the mandate of the office. Thus, the funds for the Bangsamoro government should be put into good use while investing on the skills of its employees. It is also worth noting that in November 18 of 2021, the BTA adopted the approved approve a resolution number 189, which directs all ministries and offices of the Bangsamoro government to conduct their capacity building activities and other related activities within the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao in order to boost the economic activities of the region. It is thus imperative that we direct all ministries and offices of the Bangsamoro government that capacity building activities and trainings, once again, should not be conducted in luxurious hotels and resorts, except those which are externally funded. For instance, activities that are sponsored by non-government organizations or development partners. It is completely unnecessary for these capacity building activities or trainings to be conducted in expensive venues, given that there are other competent venues to hold them at much lesser cost to the Bangsamoro government and its people. Taking all of this into account, I ask this Parliament to pass this resolution. Thank you very much, and wassalamualaikum.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of interpellation and debate.
There's a motion to open the period of interpellation and debate. There any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved. Period of interpellation and debate is now open.
May we respectfully recognize MP Jose Lorena, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Gentleman from Sulu MP Joe Lorena is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader, for giving me the floor. If the gentle lady of Maguindanao, the principal sponsor of this resolution, would yield to some clarificatory questions before I would manifest my intent to be part of this resolution.
If
Yes,
the
Mr.
gentlewoman will yield,
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You, in your sponsor speech, you mentioned that the Parliament has already issued adopted resolution 189, directing our ministries to, for purposes of frugality, not to conduct trainings and capacity building in hotels, but in the area of autonomy in particular, to roll the circulation of money within the region. Am I correct?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Have we monitored compliance to this resolution?
Mr. Speaker, I guess the Secretariat is in the best position to answer, or the concerned ministries and offices is in the best position to answer this particular question. But the way I look at it, although we issued or we adopted the resolution, in the social media, we have seen so many activities that are being conducted in the luxurious hotel, especially in our nearby regions, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. In that resolution, did we even give some sanctions for non-compliance, if I may know?
No, Mr. Speaker, because we leave it to the concerned ministries, and even with the BTA Parliament, for that matter, Mr. Speaker, because the law is very specific and very clear, but what we say is we remind them that they should observe the law, especially the 6713 Republic Act, Mr. Speaker.
So thanks. So the penalties and sanctions are covered by that resolution, minded of the Code of Conduct of Government Officials?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, and
provided
I believe that the law has its specific sanctions with regards to specific violation, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the light of the pronouncement that from social media it seems that there is no compliance, I would attest to that. Because no less than the owner of Dusit, the Honorable former Secretary of Agriculture, Cito Lorenzo, came to my house and informed me that the president got mad when many of our personnel were sent loitering at the Dusit Hotel, a five-star hotel, accordingly, because they were either training or capacity building there. And they said they are in business, but they are now being asked to stop this malady. And because accordingly, there is a TOA resolution which says that no training should be done in hotels beyond the 3-star category. So accordingly, at the time of the gathering in Dusit, it was not was not given to me. The president was there with the mayor of the city of Davao, and we spent millions of pesos, which irked the president. And he asked me, Joe, he said, we are in business, but we were forewarned by the president. In fact, he asked some of the guest folio for that event. So I hope we can monitor this resolution, compliance to Resolution 189, and I subscribe. But be as it may, I really don't know if the conduct of the good of our officials in Davao will resort into some penalties, because I don't know the intent of getting guest folio if not to be used as evidence. As a lawyer, I know when you get document, it is intended for some other purpose. But I don't know if that will be used. I am not guessing. But that aside from a lawyer's background, that could possibly happen if there is somebody who will test the ground and present it to the ombudsman. So, be as it may, I load the intent of this resolution, reiterating, thank you, Madam Sponsor. Perhaps I would want to be associated with your resolution. And the hope that we will not only reiterate this in this resolution, but as a fair advice to all and sundry, that we should comply this and perhaps avoid hotels in luxurious hotels. But I can understand the law can be circumvented because of the word luxurious. Would it be the period of appointment the sponsor allow that we put a category of hotel, or hotels are classified by the Department of Tourism into Star 1, Star 2, Star 3, Star 4.
Hindi ko na maintindihan, Joe.
Yes.
Please remove your face mask.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for reminding me. Will you therefore yield to some amendment during the period of amendment, just for the clarity of this resolution?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Speaker, I would wind up because I know the need for time of this Parliament, but I want to be associated with this resolution. But I will be submitting by manifest intent to be part as co-author of this resolution. Thank you, Madam Sponsor.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes,
Majority Floor Leader.
MP Paisalin, Deputy Majority Leader Paisalin Popoy Tago is recognized.
Thank you very much in support of the statement of my colleague, MP Joe Lorena. May katanungan lang po ako kay MP Joe Lorena dahil sinabi niya may personal knowledge or experience na tinanong, because I believe Chito Lorenzo is a responsible man. He will not indulge in hearsay na may mga bar employees na pupunta sa Dusit, which is a 5-star hotel. Pati nga ako, hindi ko alam ang itsura niya, hindi pa ako nakakapasok doon.
What is the question?
My question is, sinabi bar employees, and BARM is composed of several ministries, including the BT Parliament is part of the BARM. Sa pagtatanong mo kay Secretary Lorenzo, Mr. Speaker, hindi ba niya nasabi kung ano ang mga ministry or offices na involved? Kasi we have to clear that, Mr. Speaker, because we are part of the BARM. So you have to clear the air. Kaya ko tinatanong Mr. Speaker, nandito yung Secretary General, during our budget deliberation, the Committee on Accounts and the TWG specifically said to the administrative staff of the BTA reiterating the resolution, Mr. Speaker, and reiterating that no 5-star tour na pupuntahan ng mga trainings natin. So kaya ko tinatanong si Mr. Speaker, si MP Lorena, regarding that if BTA was part of it, Mr. Speaker.
Ang tanong niya, kasi mention mo BARM, tanong niya, was the BTA Parliament any official or employees involved?
Employees.
Mr. Chair, with your kind permission, if you allow me again the floor.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would answer that categorically. We have perhaps an hour of discussion talking. In fact, I initially said we really don't know about that. And perhaps even explained that it may have been sponsored by some other agencies outside of the barn. But he said there were agencies and even part of our BTA. Part of our BTA there. So because his understanding of BTA is the government of the day, the government of this transition. So I think what was uttered was the BTA. So I really don't know exactly if I cannot second guess what his interpretation, but his understanding of the government is the BTA. That is his understanding in my brief conversation with him. So I hope that this resolution will cover not only agencies and ministries of the government, but including the offices of the parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Before you proceed, before you leave the rostrum, Mr. MP Joe Lorena, the chair would like to ask if a parliament or any member of the parliament was present in that activity that Cito Lorenzo told you. Was there any member of parliament present or participated in that activity in Dusit Thani Hotel?
Well, I can only answer for myself. I did not. I was not present. I have not, like MP Tago, I don't like to visit even the hotel, even if I was invited because of that resolution, minded of that resolution. As far as I'm concerned, I was not there, but I really don't know with some other members of the parliament. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We should clear that. Kaya ko kiniklear, Mr. Speaker, if there are BT employees are part of it. Kasi during our budget deliberation, the members of the TWG of the Committee on Accounts, we specifically mentioned that. And we encourage them.
What did you mention?
We encourage that the holding of seminars, activities, trainings should be done in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Mindanao to implement the resolution that we approved in this parliament para yung pera ng BARM sa atin lang umiikot. We encourage that.
At in a hotel not more than 3-star.
And the hotel is not so luxurious as more than 3-star hotel.
We are not certain, based on the revelation now, that there was who are those in the BARM or BTA that were present.
Yes.
And we joined MP Joe Lorena. This representation was not present. I have not seen even Dusit Thani Hotel.
Yes. Similarly, this representation, Mr. Speaker, I have to clear the air that this representation also did not know the office of Dusit in Davao.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Majority Leader.
MP Sultan, Mimbang to be followed by MP Muhammad Jacob and MP Uja.
In that order, MP Rimbang is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mr. Speaker, ang clarification ko lang sa resolution number 668, ano yung mga sakop na ito? Ano mga saklaw ng resolusyon na ito? Saklaw pa ba ito na ang mga staff na ini-agencies dito sa Bangsamoro, like SR, accounting, any others agencies, na pag pumalwap tayo doon ay walang tao. Yun nga, related din doon sa sinabi ni Atty. Dio Lorena, na malibaban doon sa sila po ay nagwo-workshop doon, nagte-training sila doon sa Davao, sa class na 5-star hotel, ay lahat po ng kanilang mga staff ay kailangan pa ba nandoon sa training na yan? Dahil paano gumagalaw ang Bangsamoro, itong mga office kung walang mga staff? Yun lang yung clarification ko lang, Mr. Speaker.
I notice in the resolution you're a part of the co-author or principal author of the resolution, MP Sultan Rimbang.
Yes, actually, ako dito. Itong kapon yung pinag-usapan natin, i-file natin to para naman itong mga staff natin, bawat agencies, o maturuan sila ng mabuting gawain. Kasi hindi ito maganda sa Bangsamoro na lumalabas. Tayong mga member of parliament, tayong nga, hanggang ngayon, sinasabi natin pagka nasa Committee on Finance tayo, account, nagbabadit tayo sa Bangsamoro, mayroon tayong mga travel order. Hanggang ngayon, 3 years na tayo dito sa position na ito. Hanggang ngayon, di ako nakatanggap na travel orders. Pag pumupunta po ako ng Davao, Manila, minsan ako nakapunta sa ibang bansa, official trip yan. Related po yan sa trabaho natin sa mga parliament. Pero yung mga staff natin, tayo bang pinapapil nila na gumagastos sila ng 100,000, milyon, 5-star hotel pa. Tayo pag pumunta tayo sa Manila o Davao, mga official lakad, nag-hotel tayo dun sa maliliit lang, mga 600 payment lang. Kasi makano lang yung sweldo na MP. Makano yung imuwi natin. Dapat ilagay natin sa tamang proseso, Mr. Speaker. Kasi sayang po yung opportunity na binigay sa atin ng Allah, binigay sa atin ni President, ating beloved President Rodrigo Duterte. Nadadamay po tayo, yung mga staff, nagte-training sila sa iba, na sa mga 5-star hotel. Maawa po kayo sa aming mga MP kasi kami ang napagbibintangan. Mabuti kung kayo ang napagbibintangan ng Presidente o National Government. Yan lang po, Mr. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sultan Rimbang.
MP Muhammad Yaqub, please.
MP Muhammad Yaqub, sir.
Thank you, Speaker. It is just a clarificatory question to the proponent.
Yes, Mrs. Speaker.
Please proceed.
Sa amin, sa Ministry of Agriculture, and I think, I believe true to all ministries, na every year nagpo-propose po tayo ng activities, including training and other activities. At very specific yung naibigay na fund. Ang question ko sa honorable proponent, kung kaya naman nung allotted fund, nung activities, na dun i-held sa magagandang hotel para ma-appreciate naman ng mga participant na yung kagandahan ng venue, na sapat naman yung allotted fund. Which better na magkaroon ng saving na marami na makita naman ng hindi performing ang ministry or agency dahil instead na may funds siya na sapat doon sa activities, dahil ina-avoid na maging ma-charge doon sa luxurious venue, doon na lang sa mga simple venue na malalaki yung masaving at makita naman na hindi performing ng agency. Yun ang ano ko, Mr. Speaker, to want to clarify from the proponent. And I take this opportunity to support the idea na baka isali in this resolution na why we don't head our activities within the barn. Sa bagay, meron naman tayong mga magagandang venue at area na very conducive. Rather than lahat ng nag-activities, papuntang Davao, papuntang Gensan, lumalabas yung pera natin from the region na ang nakikinabang yung mga private sector outside the band. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Sasagutin ko po, Mr. Speaker. Sa
Sid.
pagmamanage po ng pera ng gobyerno, may stages po yan. Unang-una, kailangan nating planuhin. Magplano po tayo kung ano yung gagawin natin. Pagplano natin, propose natin ng budget. Pag nakakuha ng budget, well and good. And we proceed to the implementation. In the implementation stage, you have various activities that you need to conduct. And one very specific activity that the ministry or office should do is to procure that activity. And what is provided in the law under procurement law is it is supposed to be the lowest responsive bid, yung mananalo. So hindi kinakailangan na nag-budget ka ng 1 million, uubusin mo yung 1 million. Allocation mo lang yung 1 million. Pero once you procure it, kung may nag-bid ng 700,000 or lower than that, pag responsive pa rin yung bid niya, yun ang mananalo. You need not consume all the 1 million as program or as approved. That means to say, the 300,000 will be your savings and that saving goes a long way. Marami ka pang pwedeng gagamitan doon sa savings na yon. And you can conduct or have some pero may mga rules pa rin yan in the utilization of savings. Hindi po nangangailangan ng hindi po ibig sabihin kung may 10 million tayo na for training, uubusin natin lahat for training dahil may 10 million. You need to go to the process of procurement. At malinaw na malinaw ang batas ng procurement law. Dapat lowest responsive bid ang mananalo.
MP Uja.
Thank you, Mr.
MP
Speaker.
Uja is recognized.
May I know from the gentlewoman of Cotabato City if I be allowed to render my statement of support to the resolution?
Of course, to the gentleman, you are most welcome.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Taking consideration of our learning from the Islamic teaching that the principle of moderation must always be applied in the conduct of services and the conduct of meetings. I rather say that this resolution is very much relevant in consideration as well of the significant number of Bangsamoro people suffering down the line or on the ground that needs the fund of the Bangsamoro government. Secondly, knowing that such training or activities be conducted by Bangsamoro government or any office for that matter can still be conducted in the areas of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region and be consistent with the resolution approved beforehand. I as well submit to the encouragement of Islam of applying the principle of moderation alongside with the principle of moral governance. So with those statement of support, I submit myself, if I be allowed, to be among the co-authors of this resolution. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, MP Tago, MP Lorena will be part of the principal authors. And of course, the presiding speaker, also part of the principal authors. And MP Uja will be part of the co-authors, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Mr.
Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of interpellation and debate.
There's a motion to close the period of interpellation and debate. Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Same is hereby approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move to dispense with the period of amendment.
There's a motion to dispense with the period of amendment. Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Before we approve
Yes.
that, the honorable gentleman from Sulu is recognized. So MP Joe Lorena.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Majority Leader. As I manifested earlier, just for clarity, I would add to the word luxurious hotel that all those hotels classified 3 stars above should be considered luxurious. per classification because luxury is subjective, but the COA resolution would specify that it should be,
We identify that according to star ranks.
yes, according to star ranks. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Will the
If the
gentlewoman
gentlewoman would accede, just for
accept
clarity.
the
Just for clarification, 3-star hotel up.
Yes.
Above.
When we say above, when
Above
we say
3-star.
luxurious, we will include in the body of the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So there's now a motion to close the period of amendments. Is there any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Semi-chair approve. Motion to approve?
Mr. Speaker, I move to approve proposed resolution number
668.
668, Mr. Speaker.
There is a motion to approve proposed resolution 668. Is there any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Semi-chair approve.
Mr. Speaker, considering that due to lack of time, Mr. Speaker, I move to defer consideration of committee report number 93 until the next session, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to dispense consideration of committee report number 93, BTA Parliament Bill 81. Is there any second due to time constraints? Is there any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Semi-chair approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move further that in the business for the day, we considered first proposed resolution number 669.
There's
Mr.
a motion to consider proposed resolution 669.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Yes.
Is there any second? Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. We now consider proposed resolution 669.
Mr. Speaker, I have an omnibus motion to dispense with the period of interpellation and debate and the period of amendment, and I further move for the approval of proposed resolution number 669.
There's a motion to omnibus motion to dispense with the period of interpellation and debate, amendments, and move for the approval. Is there any?
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, what is the pleasure of MP Dolo?
may we just request that we be included as co-authors, Mr. Speaker, MP Loong.
If the gentlemen physically present in this hall will agree to include those in the Zoom, we will allow them. We will include them all as all co-authors of this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
So the proposed resolution is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move to defer all consideration of all resolutions under the business for the day and be discussed in the next regular session of this session, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to defer all consideration of all other business for the day until the next regular session.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Duly seconded. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Semi-chair by approved.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other agenda and order of business, I move to adjourn this session, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion to adjourn. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Semi-chair by approved.